and as we work smart, we can get some things done. And so today's lesson are about pain points, and where does it hurt, and how do your pain points ultimately affect several things, I'll write them out real quick. How do your pain points affect your perspective? How do your pain points affect your productivity? How do your pain points affect how you deal with people? And then how do your pain points affect your peace? So when we ask, where does it hurt? We're talking about those things that we carry. That there are certain things that we are never, whether they're generationally, whether they're situational, there are things that you carry with you that you never get completely over. You know, I saw an interview clip of um, Damon Wayans. Damon Wayans, comedian, the whole Wayans family. And I think it was a 60-minute clip because he's got a new CBS television show. And hey, Takara. And he talked about something that I didn't know, that he has a club foot, that he's always had it. And he said that his brother Keenan has always said, your comedy is darker than all of the rest of ours because of what you had to go through as a child, and the ridicule, because kids are mean, all of what you had to go through as a child, having that club foot. So of all of the Wayans, Keenan and Marlon and Sean, Damon's comedy is a little dark. And he said in the clip, he said, I deal with pain all the time. He says, the only way I can let you understand it, I have a toothache in my shoe that I live with. That's what I live with. And then he said, it's a blessing because it's helped me to become who I am. So we unfortunately have a Christianity now that where people think that part of God's responsibility is to either eliminate all of your pain all the time or to keep you from pain all the time, you know, and that's just not reality. That's not, and it is interesting, and this is not a Bible study, it's a personal development session, but it is interesting how music guides our theology. Okay, music. And because when I was a kid, the grown-ups sang, must Jesus bear the cross alone and all the world go free? No, there's a cross for everyone, and there's a cross for me. You don't sing those. And I'm not talking about, I am not talking about melodies. I am talking about theology. That's not our theology now. Okay, that's not our. And I remember, I'll never forget this. And I went to this place and I only preached there once, and I preached my way out of another invitation. I had this. This is probably 15, 18 years ago. And I forgot, I even, forget the text, but it was a sermon entitled, Even If It Takes a Long Time. And it was something about a delayed blessing that God was given. It may have been, it may have been, Abraham having to wait 25 years for Isaac and all that. But the sermon was, even if it takes a long time, that God's still going to fulfill his promises. And I'll never forget going back into the pastor's office after the first service. And he said, Bishop, we serve a right now God. That's my people want to hear about a right now God. I'm like, okay. Okay. You know, and my thought was, that's true, but so is this. But that preaching doesn't draw people. And his church is 5 times bigger than mine, you know, but it does. And so I choose to tell you as much truth as I can tell you. Mm-hmm. And part of the truth is you're going to have some pain. You're going to have some pain. You're going to have some pain. You're going to have some difficulties. You're going to have some things that hurt. Now, and then you need to know what they are. You don't want to be blindsided by your own ongoing pain, because it's going to affect the other things. It's going to affect you at work. It's going to affect you with your children. It's going to affect you. You don't want to be blindsided by your own, you know, if you have unresolved pain as a female about a relationship hurt, then we need to be very, very careful with you in women's ministry. You know, I've seen it. For years, I was the guy. I was the male preaching women's conferences, and so I got to see a lot of that. And when I first was invited, one of my friends said, "Listen, we shouldn't do a women's conference without a male perspective, and y'all shouldn't do a men's conference without a female's perspective, because if you spend 2 days with one gender, you don't get the whole perspective." So God had given me the voice to speak to women. And so I remember watching one presenter, and it became clear she doesn't like men. And she was wrapping it in women empowerment and wrapping it. And I'm like, no, she doesn't like men. And she's teaching other women how to not like men because she hasn't dealt with her own pain. Okay. So whatever that pain is, so let's talk about perspective. Let's talk about perspective. How many of you feel like you have a pretty wide range, that your lens of the world is pretty broad, that you're able to see, you know, and appreciate, you know, or what you call your lens very, very narrow? Okay.
Yeah, to just look at different situations and people and really allow people to be who they are based on their experiences and not trying to, you know, I watch judging.
Okay.
I really do.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
Right.
I don't know your pain. I don't know your experience. And yeah. I just try to keep
okay. Somebody else, perspective. And how have your experiences helped to develop your worldview?
I think mine is wide in some areas and
narrow in others.
I was in the military.
Okay.
So from a cultural perspective, I've been embedded in a lot of cultures, different cities, different locations, and ethnicities just because of that. So I think that sort of broadens that particular perspective when it comes to that. But then in other areas, I was
very narrow.
Narrow.
Okay. Online, when you talk about your perspective of life, would you consider your perspective broad, or would you consider your perspective narrow? Hit me in the comments. I would have to agree with Charles. There are certain things that I'm very broad in, and remember, perspective is not necessarily opinion. It's the ability to see. Okay. Perspective. You know, one of my philosophy my philosophy professor, I remember in college, says he would use the word multi-perspectival. That was his word. That was his word. Multi-perspectival. I will always remember that was his word, that it was important to be able to be able to see multiple perspectives. Okay. And that's how I differentiate between perspective and opinion and judgment. Okay. I can see it. I may not agree with it, but I can see it. I can see it. It's wrong, judgment, but I can still see it. Some things we can't even see. We can't even see. We can't even see. And sometimes our pain points can help our perspective, because your pain can help you be empathetic. Okay. And then sometimes your pain can decrease your perspective, because now that pain, you have you can have emotional myopia. You're nearsighted. Okay. Or you can have emotional glaucoma. It's foggy and shielded.
So you just helped me.
Okay.
About narrow, right? So when you talk about emotional, I just thought about grief, the perspective, what I'm living with now.
Yes.
So I've encountered other women who were widows and who went through that. And you're right. I tried to be open and see and feel and be empathetic.
Right. But
based on my perspective, but now I'm in that place as a widow.
Right.
And now I see. I didn't see
it clearly. You thought you knew.
I thought
you
what it was like.
Yeah.
The
pain, once you experience it, sometimes it clears things up. But sometimes it makes things not only clear in a wide perspective, but it can make things clear in a narrow perspective. And narrow is not bad. As been said earlier, some things we're good on, some things we're narrow. Carson says a little bit of both. He says he's built different. I get it. Jessica says, I consider my perspective to be a bird's eye view. Okay. Helen says broad. That's good. And it's important to know how your pain points affect. So for example, my pain points about family causes me to value preparation. Don't jump into this thing not prepared. Okay. That my perspective is, you're going to be in trouble if you don't try to adequately prepare. If you don't try to adequately prepare, you're going to be in trouble. It may last and all of that, but you're going to hit some bumps that you would have never had to hit if you. So my perspective is that, let me see the preparation. Okay, so when I do premarital coaching, it's, oh no, we're not doing helpful hints to married couples. I'm going to turn this relationship on its head to see if you all are really prepared. Why? Because my pain point says you're going to pay for it later if you're not. So my perspective of that, my perspective of I never saw people who have never seen addicts up close have no real perspective on their battle. Just stop. just get yourself clean. And this, no, just, nah, no. So you've never had to get a phone call like I have in the middle of the day saying, Pastor, I'm at work shaking. Why are you shaking? Because this was during the crack epidemic, because I get paid tomorrow. And I know if I don't get help by Friday afternoon, I'm going to be broke, because the crack will start to speak to me Friday morning. I've never watched that. It's easy to say, you just need to be delivered. If you've never watched that, it helps your perspective when you either have been through it or you've been closely related to somebody who's gone through pain. Your battle with breast cancer, I have an up close perspective of that because I walked somebody through it and saw it and sat there in the chemo treatments and there at the surgery and taking them home and this and seeing the psychological damage of am I still a real woman and all you go. So I have a different perspective because I walked with somebody through it. So it does. It does. And that's when we use our pain for good. It helps me be a better person. It helps me be a better person. It helps me be broader. It helps me. And I may not agree, but my experiences give me a better understanding. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes. I think teaching kids for 34 years helped me to change my perspective about a lot of things. Because, we're raised a certain way.
Right.
But then when you teach people who may have been raised differently from you first, I'm finding myself judging them and not giving them a chance to be who they are, not trying to understand. And then 20 years later, 20 years into my career, I go to a workshop and I remember, I don't know whether it's Stephen Covey or Maxwell, somebody that you presented to us.
Okay.
And I remember the thing that I carried away from that workshop was seek first to understand.
See, that's a Maxwell's phrase.
Maxwell.
Seek first to understand.
I've never forgotten that. And from then on, I started understanding that people are different from me. My way may not have been the right way.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started to judge less, because I can be very judgmental and I don't like it, but I'm working on it.
That's a powerful, powerful experience because you have to be exposed to different things. And if you are narrow in your experiences, you will be very narrow in your perspective. And we all believe, because it worked for us, that it's the right way. I remember reading I got half of the title, but I can't remember the whole title. But basically, it was the explanation of the Enneagram. And I'd never, I had done DISC and Myers-Briggs and all of that, but I never knew anything about the Enneagram. And one of the things, and I hadn't heard about it until I was listening to a Andy Stanley leadership podcast, and he had the author of this book on. And so when the Enneagram is 9 different personality exams, 9 different personality traits. And what the Enneagram says that, depending on what you are, here are your traits. And then here are the ones who are most adjacent to you. So a 1 works well with a 4, or this or that. And one of the things that I'll never forget what the author said, he said to Ms. Helen's point, he said, all of these are normal. He says, the problem is that anything different than how we were raised is considered abnormal. Okay, we view it. He says all of these are normal. So how do I deal with the normality of all of these differences? Because remember, we were raised for sameness, for the purpose of order. If you're my age and older, your parents demanded order. Order. That was it. And in many cases, it was too many. So this is where everybody, we got time to deal with the individual personalities because it's 9 of y'all. My granny, my mom's mom, my granny had 9 kids. Okay, she had 9 kids. So we don't have time for personalities. Everybody go to sleep. Everybody take a nap because you're trying to manage all of this stuff. So you're taught order, not individuality, not different perspectives. We got to keep some order. And the only way to have order is to have sameness. Whereas for those of us who are people of faith, that is the beauty and the tension of the church. It's unity through diversity. One body, many members, and the members ain't the same, but they have the one spirit. And so the only way you can have these different people unite is everybody's following the same spirit. So in perspective, let's go productivity. Let me ask you a question. Is there something that can emotionally shut you down? It may be for an hour, it may be for 2 hours, it may be, and where he's like, I'm no more good today. Now, many of us, because of the jobs that we have, don't have that option. You can't shut down in the middle of the classroom. Even though growing up, teachers did. Everybody put their head down. That's my child. That was a trick. I knew that trick. Everybody put your head down. It's like, oh, she need a moment. She's regrouping. She ain't got it today. You know what? Y'all gonna have a free day today. No, she ain't with it today. She's not with it today. It is those particular things, and those of us who have the responsibility to serve people. It's tough when we don't have it that day. It's tough. It is tough. Our team knows. If he comes in, speaks to everybody, and then goes in an office and shuts the door, leave him alone. He ain't got it today. He may have it in 2 hours, but he's on empty right now. And leave him alone. The tough part is when you're in that way and you try to nicely tell people today's not the day. But can I talk to you? No, you can't. you can't. You can't. And before prematurity, it ain't gonna turn out good for you. It's not gonna turn out good for you. I remember in college, I'd had it. I not only had it that day, but I'd had it with these 2 people. I ran the student government, and in our school, the president of the student body was the representative of the student body. Went to all the meetings and the vice president of the student body was chairman of the student senate. Okay, and I remember them. I remember our school paper. Derek Triplett undervalues himself by playing second. Because I was running for vice president. I was very clear. I didn't want to go represent the school and say little speeches. I wanted to be in charge of the student senate who implemented policy. So what happened, the president figured out later that's the deal was. Derek, I want to talk to you. And he and his girlfriend, she was the parliamentarian. We're going to talk to you. Like, it's not today. Not today. Well, we need to talk to you right now. I'm just telling y'all, I'm 19, 8, 20 there. I'm telling y'all it's not today. You don't want to talk to me today. You don't want to talk to me today. I'm telling you. Well, I'm the president, and if I'm requesting, audience of my vice president, I said, okay. And then I just pushed play. I think I talked for like 8 minutes straight. Y'all been doing this, and this, blah, blah, blah. You're mad about this. You're trying to flex on me in front of your girlfriend, this, blah, 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 blah. 8 minutes later, he's beet red, she's crying. And I said, meeting is adjourned. I walked downstairs. I never forget. I was on the second floor of the student center. I walked downstairs and I go to our supervisor. I said, listen, Mike and his girlfriend gonna be calling you soon. She said that you finally let them have it. I said, I tried not to, but they pushed me and I let them have it. And so as we were talking, the phone rang. And she said, Derek, I got it. Don't worry about it. I said, I told him, leave me alone. It is, you have to know when you don't have it. Now that's personality. Well, we're talking about pain. Pain can shut you down and not make you productive. I've seen people lose their jobs because they couldn't manage their personal pain. I've seen people get passed up for promotions because they went through a dark season and it affected their productivity. You got to be strong enough to be able to get certain things done regardless. And unfortunately, there is we can kind of go from one extreme to another. So we go from ignore your feelings to your feelings are the biggest priority. And so now people have, I ought to be able to express my feelings. Now, you're going to get fired. Yeah. You get to have feelings. You don't get to express them all the time. And, what's the rule? The communication rule? Does it need to be said at all? Does it need to be said by me? Does it need to be said now? Those are 3 communication rules that are so important. Some things don't need to be said at all. Some things need to be said, but not by you. Not by you. And then some things, this ain't the time. It doesn't need to be said right now. Okay? Going back to couples, if he says something about his mom that's getting on his nerves, sis, don't join in. don't join in. She get on my nerves too. And no, don't join in. That can be said by him. It cannot be said by you. Okay? It is so important. And so it can affect our productivity. It can affect our productivity. And depending on what you do and where, and especially if you have to make decisions, that you have to make decisions. You have to make decisions. I don't get it. Who in the world thinks we can trust this man to make decisions as the president of the United States? I don't care what else you're thinking. Who in the world thinks you can trust him to make a decision? I ask people not to vote for him, not about his politics, it's because he's a horrible individual who can't be trusted. And I hope we can get back to the day of Republican platforms versus Democratic platforms and not deal with people who want to fiefdom. This dude wants to be emperor. He does not want to be president. He wants to be king. And so and if he's speaking, he's lying. If he's talking for more than 60 seconds. He's lying. You know, he is lying. That whole setup and the pettiness. So because she said she had a summer job at McDonald's and you got to go now volunteer at McDonald's because you're so petty. And then you lied to the public that you were serving people when the McDonald's was closed. It was closed. It was all a ruse. It was closed. And for the people that you brought there, you told them, everybody gets food, it's all on me. And you leave without paying for it. And you want to give the nuclear codes to this dude? You know, it's so important that we understand, and he's in pain somewhere, but it affects your productivity. You have to know. And you also have to know, here's the other side of the development of it.
I remember when I was a young teacher, this is way before Billy, and I was in love. And in love with the wrong person. And they happened to be teaching at the same school.
Oh, Lord.
And so I would come to work every day. If we have a fight or something, you know, it would show. And then one day, as time went on, it just didn't bother me in the same way. So one of the older teachers, who to this day, I call her now, she's gone now, but I would call her the old school Iyanla.
Okay, she's Vanzan, huh?
Yeah. But one day she asked me how I was doing, and she knew what was going on and everything. I said, I'm doing well. I'm doing okay. I was able to make it through the day. I got it. And she just looked and she said, well, you know, that's called maturity.
Mm-hmm.
When you can come to work, you're upset.
You got to get
but
it done.
You still have
Gotta get it
classes.
done.
You got to get it done.
You got to get it done.
I can't sit there.
You got to get it done. And that is the other part, is that your job doesn't care about your pain.
No.
They're paying you to get it done. Now, you may have an empathetic supervisor or something like that, and that, you know, who says, you know what, you need to take the day off. And it's great to have people like that, but you got to get it done. You know, the younger generation, because I have, I have young adult children, you know, and so, and they go through the thing of, you know, that generation, not them per se, but that it's like, I just can't do it today. Well, it's still got to be done. It's still, I can't adult today. Well, adulting still has to be done. It still has to be done. You know, otherwise you ain't gonna be able to keep a job. You're not gonna be able to keep a job. You know, I just can't do it today. Well, today it's got to be done. It's got to be done. I don't know what it means. I don't know. I'm from the Midwest, and I've been down here for a long time, but I still don't understand some of the stuff y'all say. And so, but I remember Rufus used to say to me, you know, come on, gotta get the butter from the duck today. I'm like, what are you talking about? You gotta get the butter from the duck today. Yeah, he's like, you gotta get the butter from the duck. You gotta work hard today. No matter how you feeling, you gotta work hard. And one of the things that and Rufus would say to me, you know, because he's personal friends of ours and that type of thing, and I would be complaining about what I'm going through and going through a whole bunch of stuff. And then Rufus was a former football player, and he would come and Rufus doesn't do personal space very well. So he would get in my face here and he would say, it's 4th and 1 on the 1 yard line with no seconds on the clock. You want the ball? That's what you want the ball? He said, well, let's go there. He said, because everybody don't want the ball with the game on the line. And I remember when his wife Janice passed away, and we were at the hospital. He came out of her room. He looked at me. He's like, she's gone. What am I going to do? I said, Rufus, it's 4th and 1. No time on the clock. You want the ball? I said, there's Rudy, there's Serena, there's you want the ball? He said, yeah, I want the ball. You know, and so it's you got to understand that there are times your pain cannot stop your productivity. But here's the flip part. You have to be very careful. Just very careful. You have to be very careful that your productivity does not solely derive from your pain. Because that's bad energy. That's bad fuel. And you can end up being very productive, but not very healthy. Where you're driven because of this, and you're driven because of that, and you're driven and you can end up never satisfied and never content.
So you have to have a balance.
That balance.
Learn how to manage.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Pain.
You got to balance it. You got to manage it.
Mhm.
It is. I'll give an example. There are people who manage their money a certain way because they grew up poor.
Mhm.
But then there are people, because they grew up poor and without, they spend their money a certain way.
Right.
Because they feel like they were deprived of certain things growing up. I'm gonna have,
Yes.
you know, and that's bad fuel.
Mhm.
You know, that ends up being bad fuel. So we have to be very careful. Let me hurry. This is the biggie. How does your pain cause you to deal with people? Does your pain make you isolated? Does your pain make you overly judgmental? You know, ain't no good men out there. Really? None?
Okay.
None, not one. That's pain talking. You know, that's pain. You can't trust nobody. Nobody? Or do you have an overestimation of people where you don't make room for flaws? Do I have to be perfect to be your friend? Or does our relationship make room for flaws? Because guess what? We're flawed. You know, I was telling the teens on Sunday, we were going through the Beatitudes, and I said, here's a phrase we're trying to eradicate in our church. It's going to be really hard, but we're trying to eradicate it. And the phrase we're trying to eradicate is that nobody's perfect. Because that's the excuse we use when we've done something dumb. And that is our way of protecting ourselves and rational. Well, nobody's perfect. Didn't ask you to be perfect. Can you be good? Can you be good?
That's one
You know.
problems. I try to do everything perfect.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I forget which number it is on the Enneagram. And so for people who try to be perfect all the time, they say when you're managing that kind of person, always give them a deadline. Because they're going to keep working on it until they think it's perfect. When it was good enough 4 days ago. So always give them a deadline. Otherwise, you're never going to get your work. And you understand that there's some people who are nonverbal processors. So they're never going to say anything in the meeting. Now, growing up in the Baptist church, around preachers all my life, and then going through what I went through the first 5 years of my pastoral ministry, I was conditioned to have a problem with you if you said nothing in the meeting, but then I see you talking in the parking lot. Okay, what's with the parking lot meetings? Why you know what's that and that was viewed as disloyal and dishonorable, when the reality is some people have to let it marinate, and then they're ready to talk later. They're not ready to talk in the meeting. They're ready to talk later. So you can't view it as something that's dishonorable or disloyal. Now, there are some people that are dishonorable and disloyal, but you have to understand. We used to have, years ago, I had the whole team take Myers-Briggs. And so we had one person who was a crier. They just always cried. And so my makeup is, okay, if they're crying, we need to fix this. What's wrong? Go through their disc and their Myers-Briggs, they just cry. That's how they process their emotions. So I had to tell everybody in the meeting, if she starts crying, pay her no mind. It's not that big of a deal. And she wasn't offended, because it wasn't. She was going to be fine in 5 minutes. And we were going to spend 20 minutes of the meeting trying to figure out what was wrong with her. And she doesn't know what's wrong with her. She's just having an emotive release. And so I had to say, pay her no attention. Keep going with your meeting. Give her some tissue and keep going with your meeting. Yeah. Okay.
To your credit, Jen, you said that your problem is you like being perfect. I just have to tell you a fun story to validate something, which is good. When my husband ushered, he ushered with you, he'd always tease about Janet always having this big bag with her. And every time, he'd always say, well, Helen, anytime anybody needed anything, Janet would go in her bag. So he tells that story because you always
prepared, big old bag. I'm gonna be ready. Fan, peppermint, lap scarf. That's funny. That's hilarious.
I think he said somebody forgot some earrings or something.
Hey, gold or silver. Hoops or posts. I got you. I got you. It's so, people are different.
Yeah.
People are different. Now, there are some things that we believe biblically that are right or wrong, but people are different. And we have to be able to manage and get through those different. But if I show up in pain with distrust or hyper judgment or cynicism, that I got to deal with that, because it's going to affect how other people perceive me, and it's going to affect my ability to perceive other people. Okay, it is so important. You got to know what's hurting and how it affects you. Finally, it definitely affects your peace. Okay, because you can't be at peace in constant pain that you're not able to manage, or that you're not able, if it is always, there is a difference between, I think there is a difference between active, live emotional pain and latent pain that has to be triggered. And then and I'm not a therapist, so I don't get into it, but during our process, I think we move in our healing journey from the live active pain to the pain that has settled and only comes across intermittently or when it's triggered, and then we ultimately move to we can't be triggered because we've healed to the point that we no longer have triggers. And that is critical for us to recognize that I gotta move toward peace. I've got to move towards peace. One of my sons in ministry, his right hand passed away a few months ago. And at Gail's funeral, when her family and friends and close relatives started to testify and give tributes, I had zero knowledge that she was living with what she was living with. She had chronic pain. She had a heart condition. It was just several different things. I think she had fibromyalgia. And I've been their pastor for 20 years. I have not gone to Charles's church ever that I can remember in 20 years that Gail wasn't in the car with whoever was picking me up. Bishop, you need this, you need this, you need this. We got this for you. We checked out this restaurant. We got a new place for crab cakes for you. And we got this, we got that. And your room is set up. And just the most effervescent personality. Never knowing she was in the kind of pain that she was in. She had come to a level of peace that she could manage it and get it. I mean, when I tell you I cannot remember a time. I'm like, one time my flight was late. I get in and it's midnight. Gail, because you know I got to take care of you. But her pain, she didn't leak that on people all the time. You can't be the person that's always, back in the 90s, Ron Montoya wrote this book where he says that eventually we all will leak. That's why it's so important. That's why it's so important that we become the best people that we can become, because you cannot keep the real you from leaking. It's going to leak. It's going to leak. It's going to leak. And so that's why it's important to become the best people we are. It is so critical that we move to a place of peace.
And she probably decided that she's just.
This is what I'm gonna live with. I'm gonna press through it.
Yes.
Now there are times, and I heard people say there are times where, she would say, "I can't make it today. I got to stay home." That type of thing. But I wasn't there every day. I'm there once or twice a year. So what that said to me is somehow she said, whatever I got to do to prepare myself to be ready for when he gets here, I need to be ready for him, which is a whole nother thing. There are some things you can do every now and then that you can't do every day. Okay. Don't expect people to have the capacity to do daily what they're only capable of doing intermittently. That's so critical. I think it's in my book. It's in the book, Happier Endings, and the little chapter on high end, low end. And what I say to couples is, don't fall in love with their high end. fall in love with their low end. Who are they on a normal day?
Yeah.
Are you crazy about who they are and what they do every day when they roll out of bed? If you are only crazy about their extra effort, that ain't gonna work out, because I cannot be at my high end on a consistent basis. Do not ask me to do daily what I'm only capable of getting myself together to do every now and then. So those who were with her daily understood the time she needed to take off and the this and that. But for when I came twice a year, oh no, and who knows, she may have taken 2 days of rest before, the 2 days before I got there, because she said, when he gets here, I'm taking care of him. So it is very, very important. And here's the other piece of the pain. You come to grips with that's not leaving tomorrow. This pain is going to be here a minute. I need to come to grips with that. Okay? Rather than take it away, Lord, take it away right now. Nah, that's nah. Nope. Nope. I know.
It's like me being, when I was in a car accident, my body has been in pain ever since. But I try to act like, nothing is going on, and I just keep going like a die-hard battery. Then all of a sudden, this one particular time, I'm like, okay, you're getting older now.
And things don't bounce back. Injuries last longer.
I gotta move kind of slow, but I'm just used to just going.
I remember
just kind of narrow it down.
Your body and your emotions have a kindred. I remember when I had to accept that I was getting older.
Right.
And it was a long time ago. Because there's certain things you have to do now.
Yes.
So I never forget, it was a church picnic. I'll never forget the church picnic. We were having our softball game. I'll never forget it. I didn't stretch before the game. Because when did I have to start stretching? And at that time I'm probably in my 30s. When did I have to start stretching? I never had to stretch. Let's go play. I'll never forget it. I'm playing shortstop. They hit the ball in a gap between shortstop and second. I move, I see it off the bat, I stab it, I come up, throw the person out at first base. I see my highlights in my head. And my hamstring said, one whole year before that hamstring healed. One whole year. Now I've got something in my back that I ain't got to warm up. I'm just gonna go lift. And I keep injuring it. I keep injuring it because it's in a place that I have to move. You get older. You have to do certain things to manage. So it is in your emotional and your psychological health. You don't bounce back like you used to bounce back. And here's the other thing, is that some things are just more important and they hurt more.
Yes.
And things that hurt us deeply, and we would love to pray, and that's why I love this song. It was Marvin Winans' last solo album. It's like maybe 8-9 years ago. And the chorus says, "It's over now. It's over now. I can't say how, but it's over now." There are just sometimes you just wake up and it doesn't hurt as much. You didn't pray no extra prayer. Nobody laid hands on you. It's just God has just been working that process. And one day you wake up and you're like, it's better. It's actually better. And that is that process that we have to go through when we're dealing with pain. It will affect your perspective. It will affect your productivity. It will affect how you deal with people, and it will affect your peace if you let it. Okay. Questions, comments. We do this for an hour. It's 12:59. Questions, comments. Anything? Does this make sense? Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, that's that's all my question. That's always my question. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? Thank you all. Would you all introduce yourselves to each other? And thank you all for those who are online. I appreciate. Hey, Takara, Sister Helen, Judge Joan, Mother Mamie, Sister Cynthia, Tanisha, Jessica, Aaron, Inga, Mama Daisy in Winter Circle, Donna Edwards. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Jessica, tell Jay I said hello. Peggy, God bless you. I appreciate you all. Any questions, comments, anything? Okay. You all right? Okay. Let's pray. God, thank you. We just want to be better. We want to keep winning. We want to keep winning. We want to keep winning. And so help us, oh God, to continue to add tools into our toolbox and to add power into ourselves, our mind, and our spirit, that we might keep winning. We celebrate each other. We celebrate with each other in what we call the winner's circle. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Hey, Kim, God bless all of y'all. We're going to get a better picture and a backdrop and all of that at some point. But thank y'all for being on. Have a powerful day. Love y'all lots.